Welcome back, everyone. In today's lesson, we'll be learning about integers, absolute values, and their opposites. This is the first lesson in topic 1. I know that might seem strange for topic 1 to be our third topic, but there's a reason we did that. First, I need to remind you what integers are. So integers, this is how you pronounce that, integers, are a special kind of number that we study in this topic. I'm going to create a Venn diagram in this box to help you better understand integers. It might not look pretty, but do your best to follow along. The first numbers that we ever learned about were numbers called counting numbers. And counting numbers were numbers that we count with, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and on and on. Circle or a loop around that. When we include 0, we get a group of numbers that we call the whole numbers. So the whole numbers include all of the counting numbers, and then also 0. The group of numbers that we're focusing on during this topic is a group of numbers called integers. Integers is a large group of numbers, and it includes all of the counting numbers, all of the whole numbers, and their negative opposites. So -4, -3, -2, -1. It includes 0, and it includes 1, 2, 3, and 4, and onward. So it's a really large group of numbers. It includes all of the whole numbers and their negative opposites. An even bigger group of numbers is called the rational group of numbers. The rational number group is huge. It includes all of the integers, so that's all of the whole numbers, all of the counting numbers. It includes all of the fractions. It includes all the terminating decimals. So those are decimals that terminate or end, and all the repeating decimals. So if you think about that, that's a huge group of numbers. This rational number group is a massive group of numbers. Every number that you've ever used before has been a rational number. And in this topic, we're focusing in on this group of numbers called the integers. The integers are all of the whole numbers, including 0, and their negative opposites. So now let's see if you understand what an integer is and what an integer is not. I have you complete the blank table over here on the right. You're going to list 4 new examples of an integer and 4 new examples of non-integers. You're going to compare lists with a partner and correct any errors. This is going to be a partner that you're sitting next to for this purpose, for the purposes of this activity. So here are some examples of integers: -10, 6, 0, 2019, -8. These are all examples of non-integers. Notice that these are not whole numbers. These are not the opposites of whole numbers. Sometimes they're decimals, sometimes they're fractions, but these are not integers. Press the pause button and complete the table by filling in 4 integers and then 4 non-integers. And then show your paper to the person that you're sitting next to and have them check to see if there are any errors. Press the pause button now. Okay, now that you've done that, let's talk about the definition of an integer. So integers are a set or a group of numbers that include all the whole numbers and their opposites. Some examples include 10, -21, and 0. Some non-integers include 3 and a third, 0 and 1/10, and number 4, integers do not include any fractions or decimals. 0 is an integer and is neither positive nor negative. Next, let's talk about absolute value. Absolute value is an idea that you learned about last year, so we're going to review this idea and make sure you understand what it means and what kind of symbols we use when we talk about absolute value. So absolute value describes how far away a number is from 0. You can also say it's how many steps it takes to get back to 0. Absolute values are always positive because absolute values measure distance. And we don't measure distance using negative numbers. The straight parentheses that you see in these examples below are the symbol for absolute value. So whenever you see these symbols, these straight parentheses or these bars, that means we're finding the absolute value of the number that's inside. So for this first example, we have to find the absolute value of -10. So that means that if we look at our number line, we're talking about how far away is -10 from 0, or how many steps will it take to get back to 0. So we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, back to 0. So it took 10 steps to get back to 0. Next, this says the absolute value of 10. So we find 10 on the number line and we're counting how many steps it takes to get back to 0. So that was also 10 steps. And even though we went 10 steps in a different direction, we're counting how many steps it takes to get back to 0. So we would say that the absolute value of 10 is 10. 0, the absolute value of 0 is 0. It takes 0 steps to get back to 0. And the absolute value of -58/100 is +58/100. Next, I'd like you to make 2 examples using these straight parentheses, and then have your neighbor solve them. Press the pause button if you need more time, but right now you're making 2 examples like the ones you see here, and you're having your neighbor solve them. You're using the straight parentheses or the bars to show absolute value. Okay, so now that you've done that, this is something that I'll check off when you show me that your notes are finished. So make sure that this isn't blank. Next, we're going to talk about opposites. Opposites are 2 numbers that have the same absolute value. In other words, opposites are the same distance from zero, but on opposite sides of zero. Opposites are also called additive inverses, because when you combine them, they make zero, just like 5 and -5 and 1/10 and -1/10. This little symbol here means subtraction. It can also mean negative, and it can also mean opposite. So when you see this, when you see the opposite of -9 with the negative sign or the opposite sign outside the parentheses, that's telling you that it's the opposite of whatever's coming after it. So this is the opposite of -9. And the opposite of -9, so here's -9. We're looking for a number that is the same distance from zero. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, but in the other direction or other side of zero. And where we end up is 9. So let's practice using that symbol here. So this means the opposite of -8/10. So we know that the opposite of a negative number is going to be a positive number, and it's going to have the same absolute value. So the opposite of -8/10 is +8/10. This is the opposite of 4. The opposite of 4 is -4. This is the opposite of -1. So we're looking for a number that's on the other side of 0 from -1, but is also one step away from 0. So that would be +1. And then lastly, I threw this in to see if I could trick you. So this is saying the absolute value of -5 and 58/100, the opposite of that. So we're going to do the opposite of whatever the absolute value of -58/100 is. So if you just block that out for a moment, the absolute value of -58/100 is +58/100. Then that symbol means the opposite. So that's the opposite of that's the opposite of the absolute value of -58/100. Next, list 3 pairs of opposites that you see on the number line above. This is something else that I'll check when you pass in your notes, so don't leave this blank. Press the pause button and then unpause when you're ready to move forward. So something important happens when we combine opposites together. In this example, it says Samuel has $20 in his savings account before he made a deposit of $160. Deposit means that he's putting money into the bank. So he makes a deposit of $160. That means he puts $160 into the bank. After 2 weeks, he withdraws $160. How much did Samuel's savings account balance change? So here it is, it starts at $20. He deposits $160, so now he has $180. And then later he withdraws $160. And look where we ended up. So when he added the 160 and then subtracted the 160, he ended up where he started off at $20. In the try it says the temperature was 75 degrees. At noon, the temperature increased by 7 degrees, and by evening, the temperature decreased by 7 degrees. How much did the temperature change? So if we think about it was 75 degrees, it went up 7 degrees, then it came back down 7 degrees, ended up back where we started. So how did the temperature change? The temperature didn't change. In which situation involves opposite quantities combining to make zero? So it says a child's piggy bank has $10.52 in it before the child spends $10.52 on ice cream. The coaster starts 15 meters below ground and reaches a maximum height of 45 meters above ground. Quarterback of a football team throws a football 20 yards forward, then the receiver catches it and runs another 20 yards forward. The water in a bucket is 25 hundredths of a foot. Before a rainstorm, raises the water level in the bucket by 75 hundredths of a feet. So we have to decide which of these combine has opposites combining to make zero. So here, the child's piggy bank has $10.52, and then the child spends $10.52. So if they have $10.52 and then they spend it, that is going to make zero, so that could be a possibility. Let's check out these other choices. A roller coaster starts 15 meters below ground level and reaches a maximum height of 45 meters above ground level. So if here's ground level, the roller coaster starts below ground level and ends above ground level. And so that's not showing that they combine together to make zero. The quarterback throwing the football 20 yards receiver going another 20 yards, that doesn't show that they're combining to make zero, they're combining to make 40. And here, the bucket has some water in it, and then more water is added. And so those values don't combine together to make zero. So our initial choice or initial guess of choice A was correct. For those of you who have been thinking that this work is pretty simple, maybe you remembered a lot of it from last year, or something you just want more of a challenge, you want to try something out, there's no risk in trying a challenge question, so give it a shot. I've got 3 challenge questions here. Provide a non-zero number whose absolute value and opposite are the same number. That's possible, so don't panic, it is possible to do that. Just like it's possible to provide a non-zero number whose absolute value and opposites are different numbers. And non-zero just means not zero. When you're done with the challenge questions, or if you decide not to go with them, there is a summarizer on the back. You're going to pick one of these to do. It says you're going to use the words integer, absolute value, and opposite, and describe how they relate to each other. You're going to write 2 sentences. Or you can write a word problem like the ones we saw in this lesson, where 2 numbers combine to create 0. So I'm referring to these questions here, where the 2 values combine to get us back where we started. Here, the 2 temperatures canceled each other out. We ended up back where we started. Here, we had a situation where we did end up back at 0. When you're done, you're going to go to IXL through Clever, and you're going to work to get a SMART score of 80 or higher on skills 7A6 and 7A8. When you're done with that, show me your screen so I can check you off, and then you'll start working on the next assignment.